Welcome to First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast. I'm your host, James Gardner, certified athletic therapist, certified strength and conditioning specialist, yoga instructor, human being. This platform, for the pros, by the pros, anybody in the performance space, and beyond. Welcome here to share in the stories of professionals, experiences, journeys, learning along the way. It's a platform to connect, to network, and to be a part of a community that cares, with conversations that matter, experiences that resonate, and generate ideas, thought-provoking, organic dialogue, passionate pros. Brought to you as always by First Star Therapy, Mobility Tape, Epic, and Benchmark Athletics, in association with the Canadian Athletic Therapists Association. It's First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast. Thanks for being here. Thank you for being a part of it.
And not just from an athletic training perspective, but from just a real life perspective and understanding different cultures and interacting with those different cultures and seeing them deeper than just traveling. Traveling is great, don't get me wrong, but living it and being it and learning how to just adapt is awesome.
Welcome to the NATA-Cast, the official podcast of the National Athletic Trainers Association. The NATA-Cast is your audio source for exclusive insight from NATA, our leadership, and athletic training thought leaders. This show will feature in-depth conversations about healthcare topics that interest you, the athletic trainer. Today's discussion is part of a special series titled Where You At? Athletic Training Around the Globe. This series will dive deeper into the role of the NATA International Committee and their dedication to globalizing the profession of athletic training.
All right, we are rolling here with the NATA-Cast, another segment of Where You At? Athletic Training Around the Globe, and I am your host for the day, James Gardner. I'm up here in Canada. We have two really special guests here, and I'll get right into their bios, and then we'll jump into a cool conversation about the profession internationally for those that are doing it or thinking about doing it. Two really esteemed guests here that'll take us through their experiences and walk us through what that's like, comparing sort of North America to global appreciation and understanding of what athletic training is and can be around the globe. Our first guest is Antonella Felippo, is an athletic trainer, and she was born and raised in Paraguay. Went to the U.S. to get her professional education and training, and then returned to Paraguay to open a private rehabilitation clinic, introduce the athletic training practice to her country and to South America as a whole. Alongside owning and running two clinics, she has just been part of the Paraguayan rugby national team, professional soccer teams, consulted on national Olympic teams, and professional basketball. Her passion for athletic training has taken her to finish her education at Florida International University, become a part of the NATA International Committee, and start initiatives to expand the profession to South America and the world. So, Anto, welcome aboard. We'll come right back to you here, but say hi to the audience, and then we'll jump over to you, Jen.
Hi, James. Hi, everybody.
Pleasure to have you. Can't wait to hear some of your experiences. And as always, our guests are doing amazing work around the globe and spreading the word as to what this profession is and can be. So thank you for all your hard work and look forward to the conversation here. Our second guest, Dr. Jennifer Rizzo, known as Rizzo by her student athletes and peers, joins us today as a member of the International Committee as well. She served on the committee since 2020 when she was living and working in Shanghai, China. She was the athletic trainer and wellness coordinator at Concordia International School. While abroad, she joined the Asia Pacific Athletic Trainers Society and currently sits as one of the coordinators. While abroad, Rizzo had the opportunity to travel all around Asia, covering different athletic events and traveling for pleasure. One of the bonuses that we don't necessarily get in North America, so we'll love to dive into that one for sure. She remains connected with Concordia University Irvine as an adjunct professor in the Masters of Coaching and Athletic Administration program. She's also served as a program director and clinical education coordinator for the athletic training program. Currently, Rizzo works at Orange Lutheran High School in Orange, California, developing a high school health curriculum and working closely with the athletic training and sports performance staffs. Jenn, welcome aboard. Let you say hi, and let's dive into this conversation. Literally some cool stuff to pick apart here.
Yeah, hey everyone. Super excited for today.
Cool. Anto, we're going to jump back to you and sort of look at, let's start with the idea of perception of the athletic training profession. You were in Paraguay, you came to the US or went to the US and then back to Paraguay. The understanding perhaps of what athletic training is. Let's start in South America. What is the perception of athletic training? And then Jenn, you're based in the US now, so we'll bat this back and forth and sort of where things are at and then compare to China and just have a good old time talking about this profession and how it can be utilized. So Anto, in Paraguay and South America, the athletic training profession through your eyes.
Well, the training profession in South America isn't really known as a profession itself, and even less so in Paraguay. Usually we'll have therapists that will specialize in some sort of sports directly as a sports physiotherapy or kinesiologists that'll specialize in sports. But that is only also pretty recent. I came back to Paraguay in 2009. So back then, really, there was not even very many specialized doctors themselves as sports medicine doctors and very less therapists. So coming back, athletic training was difficult to translate itself into Spanish because it ended up just being kind of a sports trainer, which for everyone here would be just a coach. So that was the first kind of difficult part, getting people to understand what athletic training itself is and what I was trained to do and what I could help out on the field or in a private clinic or anywhere else. So it took a while, and took a while as a female as well. Back then, there was not that many therapists. Even physical therapy and kinesiology had only started in the early 2000s in the US, in the universities here. So even that was new. But today it's a lot more known since ATs are recognized as the only authorized medical personnel on tennis courts as part of the World Association. Then they know what it is, what an actual athletic trainer is, but obviously just go by trainer. And little things like that make us a little bit more known around the sports world, as well as World Rugby and obviously those championships that just recently have come. They'll mention them. And so once they're mentioned online or on the TV, we get a little bit more credit.
Yeah, I love that. Like at first, a little bit of recognition and now an understanding and now it's being received as a profession sort of in the market, I guess, or in the country. Just for our listeners, in terms of Paraguay, like where are you situated on the globe? Some people may not be aware. And then in terms of just beyond that, what are sort of the national pride sports in Paraguay?
So we're a small country right in the middle of South America. We have no access to the ocean anywhere. So we're just a landlocked country next to Argentina, Brazil, Uruguay, Bolivia, right in the middle. Our main sport is obviously soccer. That's pretty much has been our main and only sport for quite a while. Now we do have a lot more incursions into rugby, golf, tennis, and obviously just general Olympic sports. That's about it. It's this really small country. Asunción is the capital, and most of our population is in the capital or just around it. There's not that many other big cities, only two that would be considered, but they don't have that many sports or universities or movement around that. People will come to compete in the capital usually.
Love that. Awesome. Thank you for the capture. I think it goes a long way for our audience to sort of just get situated with where you are, and then we can sort of dive a little bit deeper into this. Jenn, I'll throw it your way. Not landlocked now in California, so over by the ocean, but in North America. Let's start with your sort of the perception of athletic training as a profession here, and then maybe just spin it into a comparison or how you found things in China. How did you even ventured to get into athletic training globally while you were in China?
Yeah, getting into athletic training globally, I didn't never saw that coming. If you would have asked me 5, 6 years ago if I was going to end up anywhere other than Southern California, my answer would be no. And so the opportunity to go to China just kind of fell in my lap because I knew our head of school I followed her actually from the university to the international school in Shanghai. And so the athletic trainer that was there before, he had come in working with one of the local hospitals that was outsourcing athletic trainers to a lot of the international schools in the area. And he was moving on to another country. And so that head of school reached out to me and asked if I'd be interested. And I told her no. And then couldn't stop thinking about it. And so I was like, I think I need to just at least look into what it would be like to live in China and kind of just open up a little bit. And so pursued that opportunity. And I'll be honest, it was I'll say it's the best and the worst experience. The best experience in the sense that I saw a part of the world that I didn't even know existed. And the worst part was I unfortunately was there for 3 years of COVID. And so that was difficult in a lot of senses. But yeah, so kind of what is athletic training in China? Very similar. There isn't a word for athletic trainer. They're working on it. They have a couple characters that they can throw out, but it just kind of turns into the same thing of like sports therapist, something along those lines. But China knows what athletic trainers are because in 2018, 2019, they did a huge campaign to bring athletic trainers into the country to cover their Olympic teams. And so I think they had like on the NATA job postings, I think they had like over 100 positions available. And so they understand the value of what athletic training is. Medicine is very different there in the sense that a lot of the doctors a lot of them just have a BA or a master's degree. They don't go through the same academic rigor that we do in the States, and they don't specialize in athletics the way that our doctors have the opportunity to do here. And so they see that value. In Shanghai, we have a ton of international schools. A lot of the big cities have these big international schools, and a lot of them are connected to or are there to take students from a lot of like the car companies and the factories that are in the area. And so Concordia was an international school or is an international school. And so they understand because they have American students there, what an athletic trainer is and what that value is. And so they brought me in as an athletic trainer and wellness coordinator. And so the expat salary is a very different salary. It's a much higher salary. And so than what you would see in the US, but they have to justify that salary. And so basically my 9 to 3 was working with staff and doing evals, doing treatments, and then from there go into traditional athletic training after school, where I worked with the student athletes. The conference that our school was in, we had about half of the schools had athletic trainers. And so in Shanghai alone, at one point, we were up to, I think, 10 athletic trainers in the city. Now they're down to 2, unfortunately, but that'll rebuild now that the country's open again and that jobs are available. The schools will start to bring back those positions in the future. And so that'll be good. So yeah, that's kind of the vision of what athletic training is in China, at least.
Yeah, no, amazing captures, and we'll try not to jump down the COVID pathway. I think we all spent enough time talking about that and working through that. But I think this is a great capture, Anto, on your part, and Jenn, from your part, is even just a conversation of talking about athletic training globally, that these jobs, these roles, they exist. Because I think there's a lot of people out there that don't even know, maybe where South America is or where Paraguay is, and then B, that these international schools are heavily based in expat students, right? So student populations that are from all over the globe and therefore have different exposures to different professions, including, athletic therapy in Canada, athletic training in the US, these kinds of things. So really great captures and hopefully a little bit eye-opening. And now we have some more people listening here, sending you notes or sending messages to the NATA or to the International Committee as to how they can sort of align with this or find these things, or, we can find a lot of things with a quick Google search these days. So, but nothing better than people who have lived it. So swinging back around to sort of that idea of living it, Jenn, we'll just work our way backwards. You again, and then over to you, Anto. In terms of supplies and availability of sort of the things that we need in our trainer's kit or our therapy kit on the sideline, easy to find, tough to find when you're in China. Where does it come from? And how did you find sort of navigating the logistics of, let's talk supply orders and things like that.
Right. So I got lucky and walked into a very well-developed athletic training room. My favorite part of the athletic training room was the whirlpool. So the prices to get things abroad are, I would say, double to triple. And so to order a box of tape, if it's $120 to get a box of tape, you're talking almost $200 a box. And that's just part of import-export fees and all that goes into bringing the stuff in. But my bathtub is what it really became. So they over the summer said, hey, we need a whirlpool, but it costs way too much to bring it into the country. We're talking almost 25 grand to bring it in. So instead they bought a porcelain bathtub, which was like, just think like a little old fashioned tub. And then they built walls out out of tile to make it tall enough for the athletes to stand in this tub. And it's just the biggest eyesore in the middle of the room, and everyone loves it. And it's just kind of the talking point. So you just have to be creative with how you get your supplies. I was able to bring in and import in some of the big modalities. And so I did have like ultrasound, electrical stem, I had hot packs and all of that. But you just have to really take care of everything, because if it breaks, it's really difficult to get it fixed, or it's very expensive to get it fixed. I tried to buy as much as I could in the country or through vendors in the country. So the Game Ready that I had, I tried to buy that in the country. It costs an extra probably $400 to do that. But then I could take it to somewhere and have it fixed, where I bought it in the US and had it brought in. If it broke, I couldn't get the parts to it because I'd have to go back through the US, or I'd have to take it home for the summer, get it fixed, and then bring it back. And so that was kind of a pain. So you just kind of learn to value the big expensive stuff. But at one point, Mueller was in the country. And so we were able to get a lot of supplies and basic stuff through Mueller. And so that was super helpful. When they had to pull out of the country, they still were able to help us get some stuff. But a lot of it is we would just do like we do in the States, do a big order over the summer. I actually had to put in my order in, I think it was January. And because the process to go through customs and all of that takes so long. And so you put the order in January. So you really are guessing what your spring sport are going to use, right? So I think this year we're going to have a big ankle year. So I'm going to just throw in a couple extra boxes of J&J, right? And so, yeah, we did that guessing in January. And then hopefully by September, everything would come in with the big shipment that the schools would do. And that would include a lot of their educational supplies. And then so that's how I would get most of my supplies. Or we have what's called Taobao, which is basically China Amazon. And so if you were creative, our Chinese finance group, they were really good at finding things. And so I would submit a picture to them, and then they would really be creative on how to get some of those stuff sent to me through like within the country.
Nice. I love that. It highlights so many characteristics, I think, of athletic trainers as well, right? So like that creativity, the ingenuity, using some educated guesswork. And then, I think the biggest one for all of us is adaptability, and just sort of being able to sort of roll with the punches and figure things out as you go and as you need. That's an amazing tale of experience in terms of building out a whirlpool. Anto, same question to you in terms of supplies, logistics, wherever you want to take it, really. So, personal anecdotes, things that you've experienced.
Well, we actually spoke with Jenn several times about this, and there were similar experiences, except obviously Paraguay is a much smaller country and a lot harder to get stuff to. We don't have vendors really that many. There's a little bit more now, not the same brands we're used to in the US or when I went to school, and things we like and we fall in love with that we can't really have here. Yeah, that's where creativity really rolled in. While I was building the clinic and starting, I was in love with my STEM machines and my ultrasounds in college. So I kind of wanted the same thing here, and it was pretty much impossible to get. So I actually wrote to the company and said I wanted to become a distributor for their machines and see if I could get them at a lower cost. Because as some might know and some might not, the income, the basic income in Paraguay is very low. So what we get paid is low. So, and the price of stuff in the US for us is a lot higher. We have to try to find that middle ground and see what we can get. I got pretty good prices on most machines and had to import them, go through the whole process. I actually had to do everything of that, like all of that myself. Same thing with tape, same thing with tough skin, just basic stuff that had to come. And even tough skin, it's an aerosol, and it can't come by plane because some planes don't let you. And so I had to come by boat. And so there you have another 3 months and things like that. And yeah, you're kind of guessing on how many sports you'll have, because the difference with me is that I was hired independently by different teams, and it would vary from season to season because we're pretty much independent workers. It's really hard to get a contract, and at any time, any contract can be broken. So they'll switch directives or whoever's in charge, and whatever manager's in charge or even coaches in charge, and they can switch you out easily, which happens with most professional sports anyway. But yeah, those things happen. So you order a bunch of a bunch of stuff, and then you end up not knowing if you're going to use it all or not, or then you're short and things like that. And even just having, I wanted a Swim-X pool in my clinic, and that was going to be impossible to get here from the US. And if I did, it was going to cost just way too much money. So started designing my own and actually got it built in concrete and tile, and then decided the tile was not a good fit. And so we just went and tried different stuff and got something close enough to what we needed. And it still works, and it's still going on 13 years now.
That's unbelievable. This is the best. This is sort of like if you can't beat them, join them, or just become them one way or the other. Right? And just kind of build it out this way, the Swim-X. I think we've probably all been there. Maybe you guys are just there a little bit more literally in some of your spaces. Like, I forgot to turn the ultrasound on, but I'm going to keep going anyway to save myself the embarrassment. But if you don't have the ultrasound machine or the stim machine, maybe if you just hold your hands and make the noise over top of their knee, it has the same effect. But it's different no matter where you are. But I think there is one thing that I kind of pull from this and through my journey and my and hearing you both speak about it is the ability to Anto, in your case, get back home with a profession and sort of build it out. There's got to be a massive piece of sort of I mean, listen, you got to be super proud of the work that you're doing, first of all. And then, a piece of being able to get home and do it too is great. And then Jenn, to take it abroad and travel and see a part of the world that I think you stated like you never even knew existed, or you never thought you'd get to, or whatever the case might be. So this profession can travel, and the skill set travels, right? It's not the title necessarily, but the skill set. You both mentioned, the opportunity to do things because the system isn't the same in China, or the system isn't the same in Paraguay, but you get this language and skill set that you can take and employ and then sort of build it outward and be a little bit autonomous with it, right? Grow it the way that you want to, do what you can with your skill set, not going outside of your scope of practice, but being practical, educated. And again, like that adaptability piece is massive. So Jenn, going from the US to China, and then obviously like COVID played a massive role in sort of the cultural shift from the US to China, and in the sporting culture as well, as like, was that a big thing for you in terms of adjustments, both professionally and then personally, obviously, as well?
Yes. Understanding the culture and where the families are coming from when their kids get injured, that was probably one of the hardest things for me to understand and to adapt to. A lot of our staff that I was treating throughout the day, most of them were coming from Europe or from America. So they understood the concept of an athletic trainer, or at least a physical therapist, physiotherapist. And so they would come in and just say, hey, I've got an injury. How can you help me? And so that piece was probably the easiest part. But yeah, dealing with the culture of the kids, China's very much a hospital culture. They've got their public health. And so when a kid gets injured, they go straight to the hospital. And so that was weird to me the first time a kid came in with a blister, and he's like, well, I went to the hospital last night. And I was like, you went to the hospital for a blister? Like, what are we doing? Right. But that's just what they do. And so understanding that piece, and it just sounds so dramatic, but it really wasn't as dramatic as I thought it was going in. Dealing with kids that speak English, but their parents don't. And so what happens when a kid gets injured and you have to call home and say, hey, I think you need to take your child to the doctor, how do you do that, right? And so using the kid to translate, when a lot of times you talk to the parents different than you talk to the kid, and so you actually end up telling the injured kid more than you would, just because you have to be able to have them translate, but then you have to say it in a way that makes sense that they can translate it into Mandarin or Korean or whatever other language they were speaking. And so that was an interesting piece. We were blessed to be able to travel with our conference. I did 21 countries in 18 months, and most of that was done with our athletics teams. And so my very first out of country trip with the kids was to Korea. And we had a kid that we had a spine board. And so we went through that whole process, and the school nurses helped. And it was me and an athletic trainer from South China together kind of navigating this. And so we do everything. We spine board the kid. It was super difficult to do. He ended up in a very funky position. And so we got him on the board, called, had the ambulance show up. They put him on the ambulance, and then they unstrapped him, took his C-collar off, and sat him up. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, so we weren't allowed in the ambulance at the time. So we get to the hospital, we meet him there, and I'm putting everything back on him. And I was like, I don't know what we're doing, but everything's going back on this kid. And so we strap him back in and we get him in. And then the doctor's like, we won't touch him on a spine board. We will not do x-rays. And so me and the other athletic trainer, we had to figure out how to get him onto the table to do the x-rays. And like, just that understanding of working with healthcare professionals that don't see that, right? They don't understand that. The kid was just fine. And it was okay that he was taken off the straps and C-collar was removed and all that in the long run. But you don't know that going in. And so that panic moment of trying to figure out what to do and how to help that kid through that process. And he's now in a foreign country, but also in another foreign country, right? He's an American student that is in the hospital in a foreign country from the one that he goes to school in. And so those were interesting times. I also learned the valuable lesson of always having a SIM card for the country that you're in your phone, because at this point it's 2 a.m. and I have no way of getting a hold of our coaches to know what time we leave in the morning to go back to mainland. And so, yeah, there's a lot of lessons that got learned living international, working in these different countries, and then taking these kids to all these different locations to play.
So, yeah, and amazing. I'm making notes as we go here, just in case. The SIM card for the country that you're in, big one, obviously, and sometimes things that people don't think about. So your experiences in walking your way through this in this conversation hopefully opens eyes and ears for others that are doing the same thing. You know, maybe I forgot to pack the adapter for the plug or the SIM card for the country, or I didn't even know that's a different country than that, or whatever the case may be. You know, this planning and this adaptability that we undertake when we're sort of either stateside or North America, we sometimes take for granted because everything is, for the most part, is English. Everybody speaks English. So there's no translation needed, so to speak. There's obviously miscommunication in our society on multiple levels, but not necessarily from a language standpoint. So understanding clientele, big one, adjustments around the globe, making sure you have a translator or access to a translator, the SIM card, and then cultural assimilation, as you talked about, is sort of, and both as members of the international committee with the NATA, maybe this is something that we can speak to or highlight as a resource that we need to provide or can at least direct, right? For if I'm going somewhere, I should have an idea, what are the cultural norms, what are the expectations of me as an athletic trainer, but also as a human being entering a different culture altogether. So really great points and really great shares. Anto, moving back home for you, obviously a little bit different. You're assimilated fairly quickly. You understand, you speak the language, these kind of things, but take it wherever you want to go based off of sort of Jenn's dialogue and, adaptation from the US back to Paraguay and to South America.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was obviously really young when I went to the US, and I was only 18 and I went for college, and I fell in love with the profession. So everything I learned was like, oh, this is amazing. And we can do all this stuff, and this is all that we can do for athletes and the active person in general. And I came back to Paraguay with so much enthusiasm that I could do all this stuff in Paraguay and provide the best care possible for athletes that actually there was nobody to give them that care. You would hear athletes go to the hospital after a match because they had barely an ankle sprain. They would come out of the hospital with full casts on, and be out for 3 months. And it's like, what is going on? And it was just ridiculous. There was games, there was no ambulances, no spine boards, ADs. Oh my God, we had no ADs in the country pretty much when I came back. So everything was just a big shock for me. Because I was prepared to go full on athletic training mode in Paraguay and have everybody be on the same level that what I was learned, what I was taught and what I actually learned in the US. So it was a big shock at first, getting people to understand that we need certain things. We shouldn't be practicing without this, or we shouldn't be having a match with lightning going on right next door, or just basic stuff that we assume is going on correctly everywhere in the world, and it really isn't. Heat is a big thing, which here was normal. I mean, everybody is used to the heat. Why would we not play at 2 p.m. when it's 100 degrees outside? That's not a problem. We're used to it. But no, it actually is. And we would have dehydrations and things that are actually really life-threatening. But everybody just kind of brushed it off. Oh, it's not a big deal. He'll be fine. And it was just a culture thing. Like, everybody here is used to doing that, to saying that it's okay, we can do it this way. Like, nothing is a big deal. I kind of like that comparison with the islands. You go to the islands and people are in the Bahamas and they're just relaxed. Everybody's relaxed there. Nobody wants to really stress too much about details. And well, people here are pretty similar in that sense. Getting past that cultural difference, where in the US it's a law, this is what we have to do, things are just like that. And Paraguay's like, yeah, that's what you're supposed to do, but we can go around this way. But we can say that we've progressed, and it's changed quite a lot here in Paraguay. And today we're a lot closer to what is in the US. I just had a student come in from the US, or like training students come from the US and be here for a couple months. And at first she would just call me and say, I can't understand how they don't have protocols in place, or how they don't do this. And it's stuff that for us learning in the US, it's just so easy. It's 1, 2, 3. This is what we do. This is automated stuff that, yeah, it's not that, it's not that easy, and it's not that in place here. But
Yeah, amazing shares. And I think just sort of like, again, cultural assimilation from North America, and I'll include Canada in that as well. It's like, where there is a society that's based in legalities and litigation, that's not necessarily the case in all of these other, I don't want to say based in, but has certainly a platform in North America. I spent some time in the Bahamas, and I got there and was very similar to your experience in Paraguay, maybe, is there's a US based, the head trainer at the University of the Bahamas did her education. She's Bahamian, but she did her education in the US and went back to the Bahamas. And for a country that, sustains hurricane season for half the year, 6 months of the year, there wasn't any lightning policies in place. And so I was like kind of doing the same thing, just kind of like, whoa, how is that even possible? And something like this. And her being Bahamian can see why there isn't anything in place, and why maybe, or how to facilitate beginning to put some of those things in place. So really well done in terms of the progression and moving some of these things that make sense to do, and not waiting until, and I'll use the quote, like, waiting until it's too late. So here in North America, we have a large hockey culture, and there was a tragic event in the UK, actually, in a professional hockey game. And now we're hearing an immediate sort of response to mandate neck protection in hockey, no matter what level of hockey you're playing. I work in a high school with kids that think it's cool to not wear a neck guard because they look like the people they see on TV. And so, not waiting until it's too late, but putting some of these things in place from a procedural standpoint goes a long way. So good for you both in terms of taking the things that matter, life-threatening and these types of things, obviously, to the forefront in countries that may not see it that way, but I'm sure they see it once they understand it from an athletic trainer who has lots and lots of education and experience in these forays. Perfect. This is a really great conversation, I think, to open people's eyes to the profession, where it can be, what it can be, how it can be, and then the realities of it, of sometimes it's not perfect, and sometimes there aren't a lot of resources in place. So what do you do? And you've captured it brilliantly. Jenn, I'll throw it your way, just maybe an anecdote or a word to the wise in terms of, interest in the international space as an athletic trainer. And Anto, I'll throw it to you after that, and we'll wrap it up there. This has been really, really intriguing on my part. Again, it's the NATA-Cast. talking internationally about what this profession is and can be. So Jenn, your way first.
Yeah, I highly encourage people to look international and just see what that has to offer. It's not easy. And I don't even want to sugarcoat it and pretend like it's going to be just rainbows and butterflies. But the things that you learn, and not just from an athletic training perspective, but from just a real life perspective and understanding different cultures and interacting with those different cultures and seeing them deeper than just traveling. Traveling's great, don't get me wrong, but living it and being it and learning how to just adapt is absolutely amazing. NATA, the International Committee has the ambassadors. Those are great resources for those people. I'll throw this plug-in for those that are interested in going abroad, where they can just ask the questions about what it's like in the different countries. Because everywhere in the world is going to have its own little nuance. And so I am super passionate about Asia, and I think it's a great opportunity for people to get out there. And some of my best athletic training friends are still living in Hong Kong and Taiwan and mainland China. But going into Europe and going into South America, like there's just some really cool opportunities for people to be able to just experience it and see it and just share the cool things that we do as athletic trainers on the day-to-day.
Love that. And again, for those that are listening or unfamiliar with the International Committee and the ambassador programming and the resources that are out there can obviously be accessed for these purposes. But Jenn, is there a way people can reach you, or are you comfortable giving out a way to reach you if people have questions on Shanghai or questions on your experience? Feel free to drop that in, and I'm sure we'll drop that in the notes for the show as well.
Yeah, we can drop that in the notes. And the ambassador page I'm on there is the ambassador for China. So I will be happy to be a contact and a resource for anyone that's looking to go towards Asia.
Awesome. And Anto, over to you, just in terms of words to the wise, anything you want to leave the audience with, and a contact if you're comfortable doing so as well.
Yes, absolutely. I'm also part of the ambassador program, so anybody can reach out to me for Paraguay, or even just a few tips on South America. We're kind of all relatively similar, and I do have contacts in other countries. And if you're out there and don't know that we are also out there, you can also contact us, and we'll get together and make at least online plans to help each other out in other countries around the world. Like Jenn said, it's just amazing opportunities everywhere. I think there's amazing opportunities everywhere around the world. The US is a big country, and there's so much to do around the US in every single state, and there's so much to see, but there is a lot more to see as well in the rest of the world. And having the experience to go out, be there, learn the culture, see what you could do, even observe or try to give a hand. It's amazing what you can learn from trying to show others what you experience. So not only learn from others, but when people learn from you, you learn yourself. So that's just a great experience when you're abroad, because people want to learn. People that come into Paraguay from anywhere in the world, you'll see Paraguayans just stand in awe at everything you have to say, even if it's something they already knew, just because it's they're coming from somewhere else. And that'll happen anywhere you go. So it's a great experience because you'll get so much out of that as well. And even going to conferences pretty much everywhere around the world, there's so much to see. That's so much to learn about what others see us like, and what show them what athletic trainers really are like. So I don't know, it's just I love being part of this international committee and just being able to share what athletic training is internationally. Just anywhere we can do it is great. Obviously, I'm in South America and I love South America as well, but we would do anything to have it be more global, more international.
Amazing shares. Thank you, Anto. Thank you, Jenn, for today. Obviously, this is the NATA-Cast, where you at athletic training around the globe. And I have had the opportunity to be a part of NATA just from the outside looking in. Being here in Canada, I was a member of NATA while I was working in the US for a few years, but most recently had some overlap at the World Congress, where athletic trainers and athletic therapists get together from around the world. And this is a really great, and I'm not trying to push this on anybody, it's a really great opportunity to see and feel different perspectives of what athletic training is around the globe, how it's being utilized, how it's being captured. This is a great starting point of conversation. I hope this generates a lot of conversation both in your space and with our listeners out there. Feel free to reach out. All of our contact information will be in the show notes. I'll leave it to both of you to say goodbye. Thank you so much for being here, and we look forward to staying connected into the future and helping in whatever way we can, growing this profession around the globe.
Thanks everyone for listening, and I hope to see you somewhere on the globe.
Yeah, thank you everybody. It was great talking to all of you, and I hope that we can help in whatever way we can. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Where You At, a special international series of the NATA-Cast. All resources mentioned during this episode can be found in the show notes or at nata.org/podcast. If you'd like to let us know what you thought or even what you want to hear in future episodes, send an email to the NATA-Cast@nata.org. And to make sure you never miss an episode, subscribe to the NATA-Cast wherever you listen to podcasts. Until next time.
Thanks again for being here. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being a part of this community. Check us out online, firststartherapy.com. That's FIRSTAR therapy.com. Or email us with feedback, consult@firststartherapy.com. CONSULT@firststartherapy.com. On Instagram @firststar.therapy, and our podcast host @letschat.at. This is First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast.